What is your answer? Which one is very special for Chinese people? Let's see the results of Hofstede's study among IBM employees. We choose results of 3 countries to show you the difference: China, France, and the United States of America. On the first dimension, power distance, the study found out China, or Chinese people, has higher score on power distance. Is it surprising? I'm not. If you have the experience to work, to live, to learn Chinese culture, you find out the power distance somehow higher, and American lower. The second dimension, individualism, which is very special, how people identify themselves. You find out in this case, in China, much, much lower. Chinese people, as well as some East Asian cultures, are more collective, more consider themselves as one member of the group or some groups or some categories. But on the other hand, you find out French, Americans score higher in individualism. And how about the gender role, masculinity? In this case, it's a little different. Somehow both Chinese and American compared to French are higher. And when we say cultural differences, we don't just limit to one country. Even in China, there are cultural differences. We talked about the example of chopsticks and spoon, and also about social gender role. Some people in Beijing make jokes on gentlemen of Shanghai about cooking. I won't like the joke because I cook. I like cooking. I enjoy cooking. I think it could be creative. My families, my friends enjoy my cooking. In China, some people believe gentlemen in Shanghai take care of family things, family issues more than other areas of China. So they say Shanghai gentlemen may leave office a little earlier to go home to cook, to prepare food for their family, for their child, for their wife, or even some other family members. I think for ladies, this sounds very nice, right? But again, in the same culture, even people speak the same language, there are differences. There are different assumptions of social gender role. And the result of uncertainty avoidance showed both Chinese people and American people somehow accept uncertainties more than French. Well, actually both China and America are big countries. The 2 big countries have many people. So it's easy to imagine people living in the 2 countries who accept, who predict uncertainties. Okay? They accept. And the fifth one, the 5th dimension, long-term and short-term orientation, you also find out China or Chinese people score very, very high. Why? From the former examples, it's not difficult to imagine why. Chinese people don't just live for now. Prepare for very long-term future. Like their parents concern their child, their children, or even the generation next. They're willing to sacrifice themselves sometimes for next generation. But when I say so, that doesn't mean culture is static. No, culture is always dynamic and changing. Chinese people are also changing as well. And again, Chinese people accept changes, accept uncertainties. Actually, there are people criticize this simple model because culture is dynamic and very complicated. If you think only 5 dimensions can describe cultural differences, and you are wrong. Culture is very difficult to understand. But if we start with Hofstede's model, we can easily understand the differences. But if we start with IBM's cases, we can go further to other theories and other concepts of cultures. Let's move on to the next theory, developed by a cognitive psychologist, Nesbitt, on cognitive styles. In the theory, there are two kinds of cognitive styles. The first one is holistic style, holistic approach. The second one is analytic approach, analytic. Holistic approach is experience-based. Holistic approach attending to the relationships. Holistic approach emphasizing change and contradiction and focuses on grouping on the basis of relationships. But on the opposite, analytic approach is different. Analytical approach is more logical, relies on formal logic instead of experience. Analytic approach concentrates on attending attributes of the target object, emphasizing on structure from the content, emphasizing on grouping on the basis of categories. So in the theory, Asian people or East Asian people tend to be more holistic. So when Asian people communicate, East Asian people don't just process information by logic. East Asian people concern context more than people from other cultures. I'm not saying it is a black and white, 0 to 1. Like when you say holistic approach, always consider context without logic. For people who adapt analytic approach, always logic without considering context, no. Somewhere in between. But the theory explains, for Asian people, they tend to focus or they prefer holistic approach more often than using analytic approach.